Because you guys demanded it, on today's lesson we're going to take a look at how to play one of my favorite solos of the hair metal era, Little Fighter by White Lion. Well, hey there kids, and welcome to a brand new installment of Weekend Wankshop. Here's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. On Weekend Wankshop 122, I showed you guys how to play Vito Bratta's spectacular solo from White Lion's Wait, but we're not quite done digging into this guy's playing yet. I think he's one of the most underrated players of the 80s, and one of his best solos is on the White Lion tune, Little Fighter. I'll be playing this solo today in standard tuning, but I'm actually pretty sure that this song is tuned up one whole step. Which sounds crazy, but you know, if you've seen Vito Bratta, you've seen him playing those old Steinberger guitars from back in the days that had the transposing tremolo on them, or trans trim as they call them. And with that thing, you could do all kinds of crazy stuff like knock the bar back and put your guitar, you know, up a half step or up a whole step or whatever. Reason I suspect this is because playing that first part in standard tuning is pretty much impossible. And there's also a lot of other chords and stuff later on in the song that feature what sounds like a high droning C sharp, which would correspond to, you know, standard tuning up a whole step. You could also maybe play it with a capo on fret 2. If you want some more proof about the idea that this is tuned up a whole step, actually here on YouTube you can find an old rehearsal demo of the band playing this song. And before it kicks off, Vito's just kind of like vamping on some chords and stuff that sound like they feature a lot of open F sharp and C sharp, as well as harmonics of those notes, which of course would not be available in standard tuning. But considering that, you know, 99.9% of us don't have a Steinberger with a transposing tremolo on it, we'll be doing it in standard tuning today. Conjure up your favorite cake blowing in the wind distorted lead guitar sound and get into this thing. Today I'm playing through the REVV G3 distortion pedal into the front of the REVV D20 amp, which is really freaking awesome because this is a tube amp with a built-in 2-notes torpedo so that you can record it direct. So basically you can take this real tube amp right here and not, you know, mic it up or plug it into a load box or anything like that. Just run it straight into your computer and get wicked tones. Before we get into it, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. As always, full tabs are available on my Instagram page at Ben Eller Guitar. Search for hashtag Weekend Wankshop 248. Learn how to play this thing, then upload a video of yourself shredding through it along with hashtag Weekend Wankshop. Downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and all kinds of other cool stuff are available to my loyal patrons over on my Patreon page. Be sure to go over to patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Show some support today. Thanks. So this is a great solo to learn if you want to learn some cool tricks with harmony and stuff that you can mess around with in your own soloing. It's played over like a G sharp E kind of chord progression, but the way that Vito plays over all this stuff is to make it sound like G sharp major going to like an E major kind of tonality. So basically every time the chords change behind him here, he's also changing keys and following those chords really closely in his soloing. We'll kind of point out a couple examples of where he kind of outlines chords throughout the solo. First thing in the solo is a little down up down, muted, and then a slide down the neck. And then you get into this lick right here. Now this is outlining that G sharp major arpeggio to go right with the chord that he's playing against. Now how you're going to do that is to slide into the 9th B, 8th G, 10th D, and then jump down here to the 8 on the high E, okay? Again, kind of outlining that popular 5-string major chord shape, if you know that one. Then you gotta play this. Now what I did there is I played the 8 on the high E, did a little hammer-on pull-off with 11, 9th B, then the 8 on the G. Just kind of right there in that G-sharp major arpeggio turf before we move into this. Now this right here requires a big old jump up the fretboard. I'm gonna play the 16 on the B, sliding down to 13. It kind of hits this with like a little bit of a harmonic, and then play the 13 on the G. It's really a jump to get there in time. I just kind of have to have my eye fixed on that 16th fret while I'm down in this turf and just leap to it, you know? After this, you're going to jump up here to this C note on the high E string. This is fret number 20. You're going to give that a half step bend, then back at the neutral 20th fret. Then you're going to play the 18, hammering back to 20. And at this point is where the chord changes to E, so he changes the soloing to reflect that by starting off on an E note, the 17th fret on the B string. Now the lick that we play right here after we play that 17 on the B string is we're going to play the 19 and give that a whole step bend. Then you're going to play 16, 17 with a whole step bend, jump down to 14, 16 with a half step bend, 12, 14 with a whole step bend. Okay, so you're done. Then we're going to play this. That's the 12 on the B, little hammer on pull off with 11 here. I'm going to play 11, hammer on to 12, pull back off to 11. 13th G, sliding down to 9. Okay, so that entire section should sound something like this. I love these licks right here. Again, this is where it changes back to G sharp, so all of its tonality changes right here. I'm going to play the G here on 8, hammer on pull off with 10. Then on the D play 11 and 10. Next we're going to jump up here to the B string and play a similar lick. I'm playing the 13 on the B, hammer on pull off with 14. Then the G on 15 and 13. Then another set of licks here on the B and G strings. This is the 16 on the B, hammering on to 18, pulling back off to 16. 18th G, 17th G. Okay, so you have this. Before we move on to this cool little pedal tone lick. So what I'm doing here is I'm barring the B and high E strings on 16. And I'm going to play E, then B. Then I got to move the high E string only up to the 18 on the high E string here. Still playing that 16 on the B. It's kind of like a little power chord. And then move the high E string up another whole steps here on fret number 20. And again, back to that E flat root note right there. Okay? Then what you're going to do after that is play that same 20th fret high E string with a quick little half step bend, then back to normal. And then there's a little subtle thing he does right here. And it sounds to me like what he's doing is grabbing the 18, pulling to 16, pulling to 15. That 15 is really faint in the mix. I had to listen to it really slow a bunch of times to really hear it. But it sounds like that's what's going on to me. Before we move on to the pick tapping section. Now for this right here, what you're going to do is to tap using the side of the pick. You know, you don't want to tap using the point or anything like that. You'll chew your fretboard up if you're not careful. So use the side of the pick. And the way that you're going to keep it sounding really clean is to basically fret with either your ring finger or your middle finger across the B string right here, and use your remaining finger just to dampen out all the low strings and stuff. You know, you don't have to steal a hair scrunchie from your stepmom to put on the neck or anything like this. You can use your fingers here as kind of a, you know, a skin capo to go across the strings and keep this stuff nice and clean sounding. Here's how it sounds. So basically what you're doing here is you're harmonizing with yourself in thirds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be fretting on the 17 on the B, and I'm going to be tapping here on the 21 on the B. It's roughly 8 times. It's kind of a trill, you know, so just do it fast. But 8-ish times. Then with your fretting hand, move down a half step, so you're on 16, and you're gonna be tapping on 19. Then you're gonna do fretting on 14, tapping on 17. And then lastly, fretting on 12, tapping on 16. Okay? And then we get to the 2 hardest licks in the entire solo, which are back to back and a complete pain in the ass to play. Here's the first one. It's worth noting too that at this point in the song the chord progression changes to like a B major over this first really heinous lick that we're going to learn, and then a C sharp major over the next one. So the chord progression here changes, and so does his tonality in the arpeggios that he outlines. This first lick here is like very Marty Friedman-esque with these kind of sliding arpeggios and stuff, so I wonder if that's something maybe he was kind of influenced by, I don't know. It is a real piece of crap to play. It's really hard. Check this out. Now how you're going to play that is to start off here on the 7th fret high E string, 7th B, 9th G, pulling off to 8, so not 2 pick strokes, a pick and a pull off, and then the 9th on the D. Okay? You can see how that's outlining a B major kind of arpeggio. After this, walk your way back up the arpeggio. So play that 8 on the G, hammering onto 9, 7 on the B. Okay, so you got this now. Then you gotta play the first part of the lick again. Play that 7 high E, 7 B, 9th G, pulling to 8. Okay, so you kind of gone descending, ascending, then descending almost all the way now. Now to this point, we're gonna skip strings and jump here to the high E on 7, hammer on and pull off to 11. And then the 7 on the B. So again, this is just extending that B major arpeggio a little bit. Some of you guys might have an easy time sweeping through that lick using consecutive upstrokes and consecutive downstrokes, like that. Other players might like to kind of cross pick it and go down, up, down, down, up, down, stuff like that. I think I do it with just like a weird combination of sweeping and hybrid picking. Honestly, I'd have to go back to the video and find out what I did. It's just one of those things that I play fast and my fingers kind of do what they need to get the notes to come out, you know? So try it out, see what works the best for you. So after you play the high B arpeggio in there, what we're gonna do is jump up here to the 11 on the high E string, and you're gonna go hammer on to 14, pull off to 11, then hammer on back to 14. Okay, so it's kind of like you just came off of this. And then we jump up to this. Okay, now this is really strange. I'm gonna jump up here to the 19 on the high E, pull off to 16, 16 on the B, and then slide that up to 19. Okay, so it's 19 to 16 on the E, 16 to 19 on the B. Then you're gonna play that 19 on the high E, 23, hope you're not playing a Les Paul, and then play that 23 with a little half step bend right there. So that entire lick is awful. Of all the licks in the solo, that's the one I had to practice my ass off on the most. It's really hard. Take it slow, and again, be using your eyes to find those fretboard positions you're jumping to. You know, don't make your eyes track your hands as you're doing those position shifts. When you're in this position, be finding the 14 where you got to go to next. When you're in that position with your eyes, be looking for 19 so you can play the next part, and then jumping up to that 23 to end the lick. Again, the eyes always lead, and then the hand can just jump into the frame of where you're looking at. It's hard, but you can do it. After that, we get this cool classical pedal point lick. Really like nursery rhyme sounding. This is again over the C sharp chord. So I'm going to be using the C sharp note here to start with, the 14th fret B. Then on the high E string, these are my pedal notes I'm going to play. I'm going to play 16, 13, and 16 after all of these notes, okay? So I don't really think about all the notes that are going on. I just think about the melody notes, and every melody note is followed with you know, those 3 notes on the high E string. So I play the 14th B, then our high E thing, 13th B, 15th G, 13th G. Okay? Do that again. And as you can see, I'm just alternate picking that. You could do like some kind of cool hybrid picking thing or maybe some economy stuff right there, but to me, just good old-fashioned alternate picking works the best for that. Now the next lick right here is another one of those that makes me suspect that this is probably tuned up a whole step, because there is a C sharp note that comes in here that sounds like an open C sharp. Like it doesn't sound like he's doing it this way, the way that I'm doing it. That C sharp sounds drastically different than that C sharp, which sounds very thin and bright, you know? This one up here sounds really fat and muffled. These 3 notes, the 14, the 16, and the 18 on the B, also sounds suspiciously smooth, almost like he's maybe tapping them. We know that Vito loves tapping stuff, so it might be that case. I think what he's doing is he's hitting those notes, and then he does like a pull-off to what would be an open C sharp right there. But again, maybe you could do that. I can't. So the way that I play this part is I'm gonna play that 14, 16, and 18 on the B, and then I'm gonna jump all the way up here to the A string, fret number 16. That's a C sharp note in the right octave. And then this part, what I'm doing here is I'm going to the D string on 16, little hammer-on pull-off action with 15, 16 here, and then slide down to 9. So it's gonna sound like, after you play this note, you're gonna come right down onto the B string, fret number 9. You know, that's kind of the last note in that run. After this, what we're gonna do is to play that 11th fret on the B string with a half-step bend, and then we play this. That's 9, hammer on pull off with 11, slide down to 7. Do that 11 again, this time with a slight pinch harmonic. Play the same lick, 9, hammer on pull off with 11, back to 7, okay? Then go back to the 9, slide up to 11, and then I did that move again. This again is this little trill thing, 9 to 11, sliding down 7, then 9. Let me do it again without the pinch harmonic so you can clearly hear all those notes. Half step bend on 11, trill with 9 and 11, slide to 7, same thing again, 9, 11, 9, hammer on pull off with 11, 7, 9. Kind of reminiscent to some of the licks that he played in the weight solo too. It's a short phrase, but it's very detailed. Now we get into these octaves. Now what I'm doing here is I'm starting off on the A, 9, and G11. I've got all the other strings muted using my first finger back here. What you're gonna do is to hit those 2 and then slide up a whole step to 11 and 13. 2 muted strums. Then you gotta strike right there and go up another whole step to 13 and 15. 2 muted strums. Strike right there and move up a half step to 14 and 16. 2 muted strums. Hit right there again and go up a whole step to 16 and 18. 2 muted strums. Then you're gonna hit right there and slide back down a whole step to 14 and 16. Okay, so that's... And after you slide down, there's 2 more muted strums that come before the last bar right here. Now this part right here is all off of 1 pick stroke. I'm gonna have to keep hitting it here to make the note sustain, but it's all on 1 pick stroke. So your octaves here, I'm gonna track them off of the A string, you know, so that way I don't have to keep saying 2 numbers. So like for this, where we start, I'm just gonna say 13. That's where your first finger's gonna go. Your other finger's gonna follow 2 frets up on the G string. So strike here at 13, then slide up to 14, and then 16. Down to 11, 13, 16, and then down to 9, okay? Now after down here, we get into those little tapped harmonics that he does. This is really cool. So basically what you've done here is you slip down to 9 and 11. Then what you're gonna do is using your ring finger here, put that on your 11th D, and with your right hand, what you're gonna do is to quickly tap up here on the 23rd fret of the D string. Again, if you're playing a strat or something, you can always kind of smack where that fret would be and you'll still get the harmonic. You don't have to have a fret in order to make a harmonic, so keep that in mind. And then what you're going to do is the same idea but on the G string. So again, I'm fretting the 11 here. Notice I'm using my first finger to mute because otherwise this can get really noisy. But I'm fretting the 11th fret G and using my finger here. What I did is I tapped on that 23rd fret harmonic. Well, I shouldn't use the word tap. That makes you think I'm going like fretting it. It's almost just like, imagine you're touching like a hot stove. You know what I mean? Just barely touching it. So after you tap that 23rd fret harmonic, do a whole step bend, then take it back down, and just hit it again with another one of those harmonics. Just like that. And that is the entire epic solo. Let's take it again step by step, starting off with our G sharp arpeggio stuff. So there you go, guys. Everything you need to know about another classic Vito Bratta solo. So awesome. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out Weekend Wankshop 122 if you want to learn a note-for-note transcription of his solo from Wait, which is maybe an even cooler solo. Legendary, shred-tastic classic right there. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for new lessons coming at you every single week. Follow me on Instagram at Ben Eller Guitars, on Facebook at facebook.com/UncleBenEller. And if you like what you see here on my channel and want to say thanks, be sure to support me on Patreon, patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Well, it's been fun as always, but it's time for you guys to get to work on taking down this monster solo. So put down the computer and get to work. Less clicking, more picking.